These are my audience members. Hello. I'll show my note cards as well. So they're phrases, it's not scripts. So I would like to start by asking, have you guys ever considered who exactly it is that pioneered the algorithmic capabilities that enable us with our modern technology? Say, for example, every time you're scrolling on TikTok or Instagram, who exactly created the processes that allow you to scroll through those endless videos of fuzzy animals or recipes you'll save but never make? Well, I may not know all of them, but I do know of one. It's Ada Lovelace. She was born 200 years ago in London in 1815. She was abandoned by her father, the poet Lord Byron, shortly after birth and suffered from chronic illness her whole life, and she seemed destined for anything but greatness. However, she did seek to defy those odds, and she did so by pursuing her mathematical education and trying to advance the technologies of her time. Her works enable our modern daily life, and in order to better tell you guys about her, I did research on who she was, where she came from, the battles she fought, and the strides she made in her time. I'd like to tell you about Ada Lovelace's early life, why she's considered the first programmer, and why she's widely considered the mother of code. So first, I'll be telling you about her early education and the strides she made in her modern times. Then I'll tell you about the engine she worked on and the mathematical equation she was able to figure out. And lastly, I would like to go over the posthumous discourse about her life, biases she faced, and what her work means for women in STEM. So first, I'd like to reference a 2017 journal entitled The Early Mathematical Education of Ada Lovelace by Hollings et al. That really did want to remind us that in the 1800s there were poor educational opportunities for women. However, she was luckily born with a mathematician mother who did seek to give her better opportunities. She did so by having her follow the Swiss ideologies that enabled her to learn through action, which meant that Ada did much of her learning through physical and mental means. Her mother put her in contact with her friends William Frond and Dr. William King, who Ada quickly outgrew their knowledge, and she eventually went on to learn from Augustus and Sophia de Morgan, who really enabled her through her own inquisitive and focused nature to become the mathematician genius that she really was, and to further on go on to speak about what Ada Lovelace actually did. I'd like to touch on another article entitled Ada Lovelace, a Victorian Computing Visionary from 2015 by Sharman Anderson, that went over the fact that at 17 years old in 1833, Ada Lovelace met the engineer Charles Babbage, who was working on a few different analytical inference engines for the London government. However, the London government did not want to give him the funding for his analytical engine, and therefore Charles Babbage decided to stop working on them. However, he did continuously speak on them, which caught the attention of Luigi Menabrea, which is an Italian engineer, who took some notes on them. However, Ada Lovelace took it to the next level and increased those notes threefold and got her first paper and the first paper on the subject published in 1843, which outlined several computing programs that focused on creating end results that did not need to be pre-computed, therefore helping to pull the era out of relying on simple automata that needed to have pre-computed answers. To go on to really talk about her posthumous work, though, even though we do have it documented and she did publish that paper in 1843, this journal entitled Simple Solutions to a Lengthy Controversy about Ada Lovelace, also by Sharman Anderson and published in 2020, discusses the fact that even in her time, in the 1800s, she was reduced to her gender. Even her tutor Augustus de Morgan commenting on the fact that had she been a man, maybe she would have been more revered. Even in today's modern era, there has been a lot of discourse about her intelligence and the dating of certain letters which were misdated that made it seem like she wasn't actually as advanced in her mathematical capabilities by the time she published that paper. However, we've come to realize and get those debunked that she actually did have ample time to increase her knowledge. There was actually 3 years in between the times where she was asking those questions and when she got her paper published. So it's been debunked that that is her work, and for those notions and lies to continue is not only harmful to Ada Lovelace's legacy, which she worked so hard for, but also to women in modern STEM as well. And we need to give women credit where credit is due, and I think that that's very important, and I think Ada Lovelace deserves it. to finalize and to really conclude this, I think that Ada Lovelace really does deserve the recognition, especially with the algorithmic capabilities that have come from her work. Most notably because they are really what drive all of our technology in the modern era. I hope this isn't the last time you will be hearing about Ada Lovelace, because she does deserve that legacy and she often goes unrecognized. First, I did touch on her early education and the strides she made in that time. Then I touched on the actual feats she accomplished in her era, which were extremely notable, especially for women of the modern era with so little opportunities. And lastly, I did touch on the recognition that she deserves, the posthumous discourse she's faced, and what it means for not only Ada but women in STEM as well. I would like to beg the question of the audience, what would we not have without Ada Lovelace's legacy, and really how would our modern technology look without her? Thank you so much.